It's not about, it's not about, it's not about the injury. It's not about, it's not about, it's not about the injury. It's about the recovery. It's about the recovery.
Hello, this is Tony Abbatangelo for the Padda podcast. We are here at the Red Chimp Studio. I have the pleasure of talking to current hearing master Soonhee Baily. She also happens to be running for Family Court Department I, as in ice cream, right?
Yes, thank you.
I got that correct. I'm very happy. So we've known each other for quite a while.
You know, I was thinking about over 15 or 16 years.
It's been a too long to even we want to mention, right?
Yes.
We're getting up there. But one thing that I wanted to talk to you about is you are running an autism court. And I said to you, I never even heard of that. So why don't you mind expanding upon that?
Well, we actually have, it's called DAAY Court, Detention Alternative for Autistic Youth. And what we do is we're a diversionary court where we try to divert juveniles with autism on the spectrum out of the system, and with therapy and with proper supports, we're hoping to prevent them from entering into the adult criminal justice system.
Now, how do we know as a court that these individuals may be on the spectrum or may have autism?
Sometimes we're not sure. A lot of the youth that come before us don't have a diagnosis. Luckily, we have an amazing probation department. We have a great public defender and the attorneys that know about our program. So we start flagging some of the youth that come in front of us. Some of us we already know have autism. Some have red flags. We call them red flags. They may have ADHD, Oppositional Defiant. We could have bipolar and a bunch of other things, pervasive delay, intellectual disabilities. And when we start talking to the parents, when they come in, we start asking them questions. And if we get a red flag where we think this child might be on the spectrum, luckily, through our program, we can get them an assessment with a Neuro Psychologist, which includes, it's about a 30-page assessment. They come back, if they're on the spectrum, we then can use that in order to provide proper services.
So I presume some parents may say, hey, Your Honor, Mr. or Miss DA, my child does have autism. That's one way to find out.
Yes.
But the other ones are, you're like, this behavior's a little more than just some kid acting like a fool and getting arrested going to juvenile court. And therefore, you're like, hey, there's a red flag.
There is, and usually it involves cases of domestic violence or battery on teachers or resisting arrest or things like that, where the youth will escalate to the point where some kind of battery occurs. The parents will come in and they'll say, we don't know what's going on with our child. Can you please help us? And we then start talking and we ask questions. And then if we get enough flags, then we'll go ahead and do the assessment.
Now, from there, you also have some personal experiences, what we discussed, at your home regarding one of your children.
I have 20 plus years of experience with autism. My 22-year-old daughter was diagnosed at age 2. By age 3, when I was pregnant with my second daughter, my daughter had become so violent that the doctors told us to put her in a home and get on with our lives because they were actually very concerned that she was going to kill me. I had
Even as a little person, 3 years old.
She was 3 years old, had herniated 4 discs in my neck, broken my foot, dislocated my fingers, put holes in our wall, put her head through our wall. She attacked me while we were driving. She got out of her car seat. So they were really concerned about my safety as well as hers. And we got desperate. So my college roommate actually lives in Henderson, and she found this program, and it's called Applied Behavioral Analysis. And she sent me an email saying, why don't you contact this person? Well, we're in Seattle. Nobody contacts anyone. And I thought, oh, well, why not? And I sent an email out, and the person called me back. And she said, come on down next time. Come see the program and meet us. And
Right.
we did.
So it was just one of those small world things.
Yes.
Got you started. Your child was diagnosed with autism.
Yes, we moved down here. I started working down here. We got her into the program. 15 years, 40 plus hours a week of this autism program. She went from 250 violent episodes or aggressive episodes a day to about 1 a month.
250 a day?
A day.
So this is all day, all night.
Yes.
Very trying as parents.
Exhausting.
And as well as physically being hurt.
Yes.
So you did not put the kid up in a home and get rid of the child.
No.
You went through the extra steps.
We did. When we moved down to Vegas, and it's been amazing ever since. I have a completely different child. She's happy. She learned to talk some when they said she would never communicate. We have about 700 to 1,000 words. She learns to use an iPad to communicate. She still needs 24-hour care, but the quality of life that we had for my family is amazing. Because of her, I was able to work, and that's even why I can even run for judge now.
And that is amazing. That is a wonderful story. So that's where autism, as an autism judge, I should say, you have personal experience on how to, handle, talk to the children, talk to the parents, because you've lived it.
Well, it gives me a different perspective because I can look at the parent when they come in and they're exhausted. Some of them are ready to give their child up to child haven. They've just given up. They're exhausted. They're tired. They have other children. They're losing their job because the child is acting up. And we come in and we have about 20 people there. And now we're on video, but we had 20 people in the courtroom, and we could look at the parents and say, guess what? You're not alone anymore. We're here to help.
When you say you have 20 people, are those providers, or are those other parents, or both? Or
it's community support and providers. So we have representatives of different agencies. We have people who do ABA. We have DRC, ATAP, different state organizations to help.
Why don't you expand on some of those acronyms for the people out there listening?
Desert Regional Center, they help out with services. Autism Treatment Assistance Program is ATAP. Those are state run. We also have Wraparound Nevada that can assist. And then we have 3 autism providers of ABA services. We also have Spectrum on Ice, which is an amazing program where they teach kids on the spectrum how to ice skate and play hockey. And we have a bunch of other people who show up every week. Legal Aid shows up to help out with the IEP process.
So you've got a whole bunch of volunteers, is what I'm hearing.
We've got a team. It's amazing.
And now, do they volunteers or any financial support?
They all come, the DRC, ATAP, and WIN are all state workers, but they all volunteer to be in our court. They don't have to be in there. Legal Aid sends us volunteers because they support our program, and everyone else that shows up, they're all volunteers. They showed up to watch the court because they heard of it word of mouth. We don't advertise. And they said, we want to help.
Well, one time you did send me the link. I watched it. It must be very rewarding, too, when you hear parents and even the kids say, this is the help I've been looking for a long time.
And that's why we started it. When we first decided to start the court, our goal was one kid. It said if we could help just one kid come out, have support, help the family, then we met our goal. We didn't have a goal beyond that. We've now graduated 25, and we have 30 current participants. So we can honestly say that every day we get rewarded just by the little things. Someone who goes to school, we had 3 graduates graduate with regular diplomas, and they're going—
You mean like high school diplomas?
High school diplomas. One of them was suicidal when he came in, and we got him the proper services. We got the school district to recognize that he had the autism diagnosis. He hadn't had an assessment, so they didn't have anything. And he graduated. He was playing in the school band. He was playing soccer, and he was just so happy. And he was so excited, and he loved coming to see us, and we loved seeing him. So that was our reward, is just watching him grow. And because we get reinforced, everyone keeps showing up week after week to volunteer and do this.
Well, that's an amazing program. And it's great to have a person like you who not only has the legal background with going to trial, fighting in the trenches and all those things, as well as a personal experience. And that's where I think that's amazing, and you're going to do a great job as a judge.
Thank you.
So let's get a little bit about your background too, because you also told me some things about you, even though we've known each other for a long time. That what was it, Farm Girl Sunny or something? And we called
Yes.
I mean, I don't think they called you that, but
Actually,
you grew up in where?
I grew up in rural Washington in a tiny little town called Adna. My entire high school had 250 students from kindergarten to 12th grade. So we had 5 school buses for the entire school district. It was incredibly small. It was logging. It was a major industry. We were the only minorities in the entire school district. And so we stood out a little bit. We looked different than the other kids. My name was a little different because my parents, my name is actually Soonhee, spelled Soonhee, but people now call me Sunny. And they put me in this town where there was no other minorities. So it was a little bit different for us.
All right. Why'd your parents move there? Where was mom from? Why don't you give a little background?
My mom's actually from Korea. She's from Seoul. And she moved to Washington back in 1968. She married my dad. And my dad was from this town a couple of miles over, and so they ended up getting this great property. My grandparents were up the road. They had 80 acres. So my first car was a John Deere tractor.
Nice.
And
very sexy.
Yes, we worked the farm. You know, as soon as you were tall enough to reach those pedals, you were out there. We hayed in the summer. We had cattle. We had sheep. We had turkeys. We had apples, orchards. We canned in the fall. We knew how to pretty much take care of ourselves.
Like you said, the rural lifestyle.
It's very rural. Everyone knew what was going on, such a small school. A lot of people didn't go to college at the time. I'm the first on my mom's side to go to college. and I earned an actual scholarship at the University of Washington, worked as a food server in a sushi restaurant in downtown Seattle. So I'd be riding the bus on Friday, Saturday nights, full kimono with an overcoat. So I was quite the sight to ride the bus downtown in the West End, and I worked there, worked my way through, and then I went to law school after I spent a year taking care of my parents after a car accident.
So your parents were seriously injured?
2 weeks before I was supposed to graduate from University of Washington, my dad was driving my mom to her hair salon that she owned, and they went around a blind corner, and the train lights didn't go on, and they were actually hit by a train going 35 miles an hour. And so my mom broke almost every bone in her body. Luckily, I had finished enough of my classes and close enough to my finals. I moved home for a year and took care of my mom, and then decided on a whim to go to law school, but it was a little bit more than that. We never had any experience with the law or anything like that, and we didn't understand the whole thing about the accident and the whole thing about being in a small town. I'm taking care of my mom, and one day I get a call, and number one, my dad gets a ticket for failing to yield to the train. And so he failed to yield for the train. They're going to cite him for this ticket. He didn't know what to do. Luckily, one of my mom's clients was a lawyer, so he said, I'll come handle your ticket.
Help you out.
I'll help you out, because you swear the light didn't go on. Well, the advantage of a small town, I'm taking care of my mom one day, and I get a phone call, because our number's in the book. And I get a phone call, and it
And
says,
for the record, we don't have the phone book anymore, but back in the day.
It's the equivalent of Google. So someone calls my parents' house, and they said, hey, you don't know me, but I was on the other side of those tracks, and that train, the lights didn't go on. And so they said, let me give you the name. So he gave us his name and his information, and so we gave it to the attorney. Well, that would have ended it right there, except for the train company then threatened to sue my parents for the $300 damage to their train.
Oh, so they tried to fluff.
Well, we didn't know this.
Right, but that's what they do. They're trying to intimidate you.
We're just rural farmers, so we had no idea. So my dad panicked, and so the same lawyer said, well, we'll step in.
Yeah, he said, time out. He
said, I'll help you out. So he defeated the traffic ticket. And then the next thing you know, we're at home, and again, listed number, so I get another phone call. And it's a guy who says, you don't know me, you won't know me, but I'm going to send you a package because I've got your address. And a package comes in the mail, and it's internal memos from the train company that shows they knew those lights weren't working and they were supposed to stop at that track. And so at that
like a movie.
It's small town is what happens when you're in a small town. And they said, we didn't want your parents to feel responsible, because my poor dad was living with guilt over having almost killed my mom.
Oh, I bet.
And so we ended up with the attorney helped us out and helped take care of my parents and made sure that my mom's medical bills were paid off. And
you saw what an attorney can do to help somebody
people.
Getting in my position, from what I've just heard, being intimidated by the big corporation.
Exactly.
Fighting for the little guys, which were you.
Which is why I decided to apply for law school, and I ended up becoming a lawyer. So I kind of consider myself an accidental lawyer.
There you go.
So but that's the story of my family, and some of the benefits of living in a small town is that those kind of things would never happen in some of the bigger cities, I think, because you just, number one, you don't have a phone book.
That's right. Today we don't have phone books. But on the other side also, for example, if somebody's there that knows you, you might get that extra love or whatever you want to call it. But most people, like Las Vegas now, and I grew up here, it's so big, you don't know anybody. Because the chances of you being in a car crash and somebody being at that intersection that you know and that would help you, they're nowhere to be found.
It was totally random. We were surprised. We were really happy, obviously, because it was very different. But my dad, we never would have gotten involved with the legal system had he not received the ticket, and then had the company not threatened to sue us. And we had already had issues where we almost lost everything anyway, because my mom, we lost her income. I'm trying to take care of my mom and my parents. My dad's trying to make ends meet. He's a heavy equipment mechanic. And so on the weekends, I was working in a hospital, respiratory therapy as a tech, graduating for college. So I'm in respiratory therapy as a tech, working codes at the local emergency room as well on the weekend, so that way I could help pay for what we needed to in order to just survive with the medical bills and just putting food on the table.
Right, so you got the serious emotional concerns of your mother. You've got your dad feeling like it's his fault, because after a while you start believing what you're hearing, which is, it's my fault because the lights were on and I thought they were off. No, that's why I like fighting in for the little guy, in a sense. There's times where you do have to cave in. There are times when you need to fight. And if you just give in all the time, the big guys win and they beat up the little guys.
It's all about helping one person. It's
Like
one
you-
family.
Like back to Autism Court.
Yes.
One person at a time.
It's one person and a difference for each and every person.
Well, that's why. So why are you running for Department I in Family Court?
It's the same reason. I love Clark County. They embraced my family when we came here because of the support I received here in Clark County with autism and with my legal career. I was able to actually have a legal career, which I wouldn't have in Washington. And because of that, I can now help other families and support other families as well. And I want to continue to do that every day in Autism Court, every day with working with juveniles and families. And I really want to continue to do that. So that's why I'm running, one kid at a time.
One kid at a time. Well, best of luck. I know you'll do great.
Thank you.
I hope you win. And thank you for listening and tuning in here with Soonhee Baily from Juvenile Court in Las Vegas, also running for Department I, as in ice cream, for Family Court.
Thank you. Don't forget to vote.